Hi, my name is Cristina Duchesne Rivera. I'm an actor in the Raleigh area, and I play Danny in Ordinary Things, which is made by Living Word Studios. You can find Ordinary Things on Prime, Tubi, and YouTube. And you can find me on Instagram and on IMDb. And we're really excited about this movie, and I hope you guys watch it. I'm so happy to be on the show with Kim. This has been such a pleasure, and I absolutely loved our conversation that me and Julian had with her as well. It was really fun, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Hi, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Kim Sorrelle, and I'm a speaker, I'm an author. I get to do a lot of great things in life, but my favorite thing to do is to meet incredible people. I have the opportunity to meet some of the most wonderful people in the entire world, and today is no exception. You are going to fall in love with these two, just like I did when I watched their latest movie, because it's so good. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot more. You are going to love them. Christina, Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be
Hi.
here.
Hi,
Yeah,
thank you
well,
for having
I'm
us.
so happy that you are here. It's you have this movie, Ordinary Things, that's so good that everybody go see it. Everybody has to see it. You can stream it, you can do it a bunch of different ways. We'll talk about that later. But before we do that, I would love to, Christina, I would love for people to get to know you. So I want to hear, like, in Ordinary Things, you do have someone who plays like 8-year-old you or whatever. But
Mhm.
I want to hear about 8-year-old Christina.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, 8-year-old Christina, that was when 8-year-old Christina first fell in love with theater and acting and the whole thing, because that was the first time I ever did anything. My mom ended up signing me up for like a theater summer camp one summer, and they were doing like Annie the musical, and I was super excited. I'd never done a musical. I didn't really know much about musicals besides like watching Disney movies growing up and loving singing along to that. And I just naturally was always performing at home and for anyone that would listen. So I did my first musical and I just fell in love with theater. And since then, I did so much theater up until high school. And after that, I was like, okay, this is something I really love. I really enjoy. I want to learn more about it. I want to really hone in that skill. So I decided to go to college for acting. And I ended up going to college and I got a degree in acting. And that's when I fell in love with film and acting for film because I mainly had done theater and musical theater up until then. And in college, that's when I really loved doing film and learned how to like work in front of the camera because it's really different than for on stage. Like acting, it's the same techniques, but you just use it in different ways because one's on stage and one's in front of the camera. Um, but yeah, and then after I graduated, I just like started auditioning. I got an agent, and then that's when I got the audition for Ordinary Things. And then I was able to do that, and here we are.
And here we are. We get to talk about it today. Wow. So you just put your life from 8 years old to today in about 2 minutes.
Mhm.
I don't know how you did it, but you just kind of did. And I'm sure there's a lot of things in between. So in acting, obviously your mom encouraged you. And a lot of times kids want to be there are people that, man, that is so what they want to do, right? They want to be on stage, they feel drawn to it, and their parents are, go be an accountant, you need to go to law school, right? Something else. And so it had to
Mhm.
be pretty great for you that your mom encouraged you to do this.
Yeah.
But I would have too. If I'm your mom or your grandma probably. If I'm your grandma, I would be
No.
encouraging you because holy cow, you have it all. You check all the boxes. You're beautiful, you're kind, you are a wonderful person off camera and on camera. You're a great actor and you have a beautiful voice. When did you start singing?
My parents say ever since I got out the womb, I just started singing. They said I sang before I spoke. So I've been singing for a long time, and then I started like really learning more about it and taking like lessons and classes in like middle school. So I think I was like 10 when I really started learning more about it because I was just like singing on my own all the time. And I do still love to sing. Like I always have like a song stuck in my head. I'm always just kind of like humming along or singing along. So like anything. So yeah, I really do love to sing. And I think singing that led me into acting first. So it wasn't like acting then singing for me. It was always singing first, and then that's what led me into performing and then acting. Um, but yeah.
Well, okay, so I think I've been singing since out of the womb too, but
Yeah.
I'm not good at it. Like my kids would beg me to not sing. We would be in the
No.
car on a long trip and they'd say, "Please, mom, please don't sing." And so how do you know you're good? Like, because people around you, of course your parents are going to say, "Oh, honey, you're so cute and you sing so pretty," whatever. Although I had an experience where my grandma told me I should be a dancer, maybe not a singer. That was a clue for me. But how do you know you're good? Like, when did you know?
I don't know. It just kind of was something that always came naturally to me. Just picking up lyrics and music and melodies and even harmonies just always came a little natural to me. And then when I started performing and doing musicals, that's kind of when I knew that I had a talent, I had something there, because a lot of my directors or teachers would approach me and be like, "Are you taking lessons? Are you doing this?" Like, and at the time I wasn't, um, and just kind of praising me for that talent. And the ones that really pushed me and supported me were the ones that told me, yes, you're talented, but you need more work to get better. Because I feel like just because, and this goes for like any talent, I feel like just because you pick it up easily and naturally good at it doesn't mean you can't keep growing that talent and keep learning more skills and getting better at it. So then that's when I started taking classes and taking like private voice lessons and learning from different teachers. That's kind of, I guess, when I knew I had something there.
Yeah, well, I can see that, when people are telling you, people outside the family, right, are
Hmm.
telling you
Yeah,
you've got
Hmm.
for
something.
sure.
And it's good that you took it well, because I think if
Mm.
somebody told me, hey, that was good, but are you taking lessons? I might have taken it like, holy cow, I'm not very good. They just want me to go
Ouch.
take lessons. But to
Yeah.
realize that, yeah, you gotta hone your skill, right? Like you have to do it.
Hmm.
So cool. I love it. Beautiful voice. I heard you singing a song from Hercules. Oh my word. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So thrilling to hear and so
Thanks.
wonderful. Julian,
Yes.
8-year-old Julian. Tell me about
Oh
him.
boy. 8-year-old Julian. Um, so 8-year-old Julian was living in Italy at the time. Grew up in Rome and really blessed to have that experience. But obviously it came with his own set of challenges. I remember that when I was 8. Um, I always had like this. I always kind of felt like, especially at that time, kind of felt out of place because it's like, okay, I was the American guy, the American kid living in Italy, So I remember that it was hard for me to like make connections and make friends sometimes because I always felt like a stranger. But I had like my little close circle of friends. And oh man, it was such a weird culture shock, I think, because at home we kind of had this big old fusion of different cultures, right? So we had like my mom's side of the family, we're all Puerto Rican. My dad's side, we're all Brazilian. So it's Puerto Rican, Brazilian with like American kind of like mainland culture ingrained into it, and we took it over with us to Italy. So we always had like this different vibe than everybody else at home. So the way that we would celebrate holidays, like sometimes we do Thanksgiving and so it was kind of like a big mishmash of everything and it was always kind of confusing for me as a kid. Um and I think because of that I was also exposed to a bunch of different kind of like art forms and mediums from different cultures ever since I was a little kid. And I think that heavily impacted where like my interests and where I ended up going today and who I ended up becoming. I think growing up we were always a very artistic family as well. My mom was my number one supporter and she was the super artsy one in the family. I mean, she grew up dancing, she played music, she's an incredible singer. Actually she played Christina's mom in Ordinary Things. That's my mother. So it runs in the family, and I'm very blessed to be able to get to do this to this day, even with my mom. And so yeah, she was always my number one supporter, and she started planting those little seeds of creativity in there. And even back when I had no idea what I wanted to do, as a kid, I mean, I kept on jumping from career to career. It's like I'm gonna be a psychologist. No, no, I'm gonna be a driver. I want to drive, and I'm, by the way, one of the worst drivers you'll ever meet in your life. So I'm glad that didn't happen. But
Apparently,
uh,
we should all be glad that it didn't happen.
everybody should be glad that yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But at that time, I think similarly to Christina, it was like the introduction to my artistic career, even though I didn't actually act on it until way later on. Um, I was just really obsessed with movies. I was obsessed with we had like this VHS collection and I would just throw in every single movie that I could possibly find and random DVDs. I'll always remember 8-year-old me was even before that, for years obsessed with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man series. That was an awakening in me. That's I think what I was like, I want to be that. I want to be a superhero. I want to be that. Um so Marvel, call me up. Um but yeah, so 8-year-old me, yeah. So it was just me trying to figure things out, I think, in a different country and starting to figure out what I liked and what I wanted to do and having my mom and my family really push me to and encourage me to do that. And when we moved here to the US in 2011, um I pretty much took off running essentially from there and I just signed up for as many. I was in marching band, I played music, I was in jazz band, I started doing acting things in school, so it was just off to the races since then.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you did a good job too. The 2-minute capsule of your entire life. You said that it was confusing to you, the whole Brazilian, Puerto Rican, American, then you're in Italy. You kind of confused me with
Yeah.
all that. I could see where that would be so confusing because what a blend of very strong cultures, right? I mean, it's kind of not just anybody, but uh, places,
Excuse me.
Puerto Ricans very proud to be from Puerto Rico and very much
Absolutely.
their own culture, right? Brazilians very proud to be from Brazil, very much their own culture. Americans, we all know Americans, but then here you are in Italy and uh, completely different than Puerto Rico or Brazil. And Italians have their own way and their
Oh my
own
gosh, yeah.
pride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I imagine that had to be the food was good,
Oh my
probably.
goodness, the food is incredible. I still dream about it to this day. I want to go back and wanted to eat all the food.
Just go and eat.
Oh
Just
my
spend a
gosh,
week eating.
that would be the best trip ever. I'm a foodie, so
Yeah. So then, well, how old were you when you moved there?
oh man, well when I moved there, I was little. I mean, I think I was like 3 when I moved there. So I was born in Puerto Rico and lived there for about a year, and then we moved straight to Europe, and we kind of moved around ever since. So I was 3. I grew up in Rome. So from like 3 to 12, I lived in Rome.
Wow. Wow. I mean, so that is where you grew up. Those are your growing up years. And
Hmm.
so you're speaking English at home, probably,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then having to learn Italian.
Well, and
But
it's
yeah.
interesting because you don't. It sounds like it's a lot, but I mean, that's when you're a kid and you grow up doing that. That's kind of like your norm. I mean, that's why everybody says that, when learning a different language, it's so much easier for kids because that's when you're developing, like, your brain's developing. It's easier to just soak in all that new information. So, I mean, I was learning 3 languages at once because I was learning English, Spanish, and Italian. I didn't pick up as much of the Portuguese as I probably would have liked. But that's mostly also because my grandparents, they live further away in Brazil, and we didn't interact as much, so I didn't have that much of an influence. And growing up, we had a lot of my babysitters. A lot of them were from Ecuador, and so we always had that Spanish to practice. But when you're a kid, it's a lot easier to pick these things up, so you don't even notice that you're learning it. Now, if I had to, oh my gosh, I keep thinking it's like I would love to learn, I don't know, Swedish or something. And it's just, but every time that I try to do it, I don't know, pull up Duolingo, it's just it's so hard. I wish I was a kid again. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird. It was weird because you always kind of like you almost code switch in a way because okay, I'm at home, I speak English and Spanish, and then now I'm outside of the house, I only speak Italian. So that's kind of how it ended up working, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but what a gift at the same time, right? To
Absolutely.
to know languages, to learn them at such a young age, and to keep them alive. And do you find it hard to keep all the languages or Italian, I guess,
Yeah,
alive?
it can be. I think it's interesting. I don't think it'll ever truly go away because I surprise myself at how much I still remember. And it's, I've been very blessed to every year on each other's birthdays, my best friend and I from Italy will message each other and we'll have like a 2 day long conversation over over Instagram. And we'll just catch up, and I'm surprised how much I remember. We'll send each other some video messages here and there, and that's honestly been pivotal for me for keeping that alive, I guess. But yeah, it has been a little challenging because that's pretty much exclusively when I use it or when I'm listening to music. I like to listen to a lot of Italian music as well. So I try to keep it up and try to keep it alive as much as I can here. But it is difficult. It's a challenge because with Spanish, I speak it all the time here as well. A little bit of Portuguese here and there, but for the most part, I really have to kind of like practice to keep up the Italian because it gets real rusty.
I would imagine it would
Hmm.
because it's not like you go to the grocery store and you're overhearing a conversation in Italian, right? I
Oh
mean,
man, that makes my day though. Like it's so weird. Like, it's really interesting. But at my workplace, not too long ago, there's this guy who's only part-time, who I had never met up until this point, and he shows up. Apparently, he was off studying abroad, comes back, and they're like, "Oh, dude, he's Italian." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's neat." And he's like, "No, no, no, he's literally like from Naples." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he speaks Italian." It was the most exciting time for me because I went up to him. I was like, "No way!" So I started speaking to him Italian. He started speaking Italian back to me. Oh my gosh, it was like a brain blast. Jimmy Neutron. I was like back in time. I get so excited whenever I see someone else who speaks Italian or just speaks another language that I know. It's like immediately forms like a like a bond for me. I mean, I don't know if it's the same with you, Christina. I know that. speaking Spanish. But as soon as I speak, Spanish or some other language that I know with somebody else, it's immediately like, okay, we're best friends now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Is it the same for you, Christina?
Yeah, I would say so. Because my whole family's from Puerto Rico. And the majority of them are still there. But I grew up listening to Spanish, speaking Spanish. Like I was born in Miami, and initially, like before I started school, all I knew was Spanish. So then going into like pre-K, kindergarten, all the kids were speaking English, and my parents told me that I like walked in and everyone's speaking English, and I looked at them like, what is going on? Because I was like, I don't understand anything because my parents were strictly speaking to me in Spanish. But they knew English as well. It was just naturally like Spanish for them at home. And then I basically learned English at school, growing up. And then since English was like, the primary language here, that kind of became my primary language. And then at home, my parents spoke to me in Spanish and I would speak to them in Spanglish. So Spanglish is honestly my natural, I would say, language. Like I am naturally going from English to Spanish in like a sentence. That's just like how my brain is like works. And it's funny because my boyfriend is actually Puerto Rican as well, and he was like born and raised in Puerto Rico, and he hates when I do it. He's like, pick one, English or Spanish. He's like, I can't do both, and then he's like, pick one, and I'm like, no. That's how I think, and he's like, this is too much for me because he's like naturally translating in his head all the time because Spanish is his first language. And versus for me, I don't really have to translate in my head. I don't know if that happens for you, Julian.
Hmm.
It's just like the same to me. It's just
Yeah.
all together. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
if someone's speaking to me in Spanish, I don't have to translate in my head to English. I'm just like, it just connects. Unless it's a word that I just like don't use,
Hmm.
or I'm just like not familiar with because people from other Spanish speaking countries like use words that we don't use in Puerto Rico. Or like we just have words um, like straw, like the way we say straw is the way, like a completely different word. Someone from Mexico would say straw.
Hmm.
So it's just like that communication barrier that can happen sometimes. But yeah, that's just kind of how I am with languages.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that. I have a son from the Dominican Republic, and I have a
Mhm.
son-in-law from Mexico. And my son from the DR, he lives there full time. He runs what we do there. We have schools and water projects and community things and stuff that we do there. And he runs it, and he's so good. He's just the most amazing guy. I just adore him. Christian is his name. And then Noe is my son-in-law. And when they first met, Christian came to me and he said, and by the way, Noe was born in Mexico. He was 12 years old when he moved to the US. So it's not like he
Mm.
was a baby, moved to the US, started speaking English, right? So he was 12,
Mhm.
knew nothing, and came to the US. So Spanish is definitely his first language.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Mhm.
And Christian, too, he was older when we adopted him, so Spanish is his first language. But you have the Dominican Republic and you have Mexico. And Christian came to me after meeting Noe the first time and he said, Guy, that guy, he's not very good at Spanish. He can't really speak Spanish. I'm like, what? But it can be so different, right? So like talking
Hmm.
Mhm.
about straw, being so different, Puerto Rican and but like all of Latin America is kind of that way. Different words that you use that you'd use here, but you wouldn't use there. And even
Mhm.
sometimes I've heard that my Spanish, by the way, comes from Duolingo. And I am proud to say I'm on day 854 in a row. I know. Kudos to me. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Congrats. That's crazy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do it every day. So you'd think that I would know the language. I don't. I don't, but I try. But but
Mhm.
but anyway, but Spanish, when you hear two people talking and the speed of talk too is different, the cadence can be different,
Yeah.
just kind of everything. And so, how does that work for you guys when you're out in the world and around
Yeah.
Spanish speaking people?
It can be hard because depending on what country they're from, their accents can be like really thick, and the words they use are just not words that we use in Puerto Rico. So sometimes it's literally like,
Like a different language.
yeah, it can be because like you hear some words here and there, and then they're also like usually speaking really fast, and they have like a different cadence, like you said, like they can be like a little more sing-songy or a little more like like it's just kind of like different to the ear. So that can sometimes like throw you off, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like Julian said, it sometimes feels like a different language when
Yeah. I
people
mean,
from other countries speak
I remember
Spanish.
serving tables, and there would be, I would find some family would sit down, and then I would hear them like translating to each other. Someone I'm speaking to them, I'm like, oh, okay, they speak Spanish. All right, so I start speaking Spanish to them, and they're surprised. Oh, that's awesome. So they start speaking Spanish to me, and it's just nothing. I did not understand a single word that came in. Also, I also have a hard time sometimes like understanding people when they're speaking, period. Just like making out words and whatever, just like what is it? Processing. So I already have a hard time with that. So then you add in a totally different accent, totally different cadence, different lingo, different slang. And then it's just like I'm sorry again, and then they say it again, and I start speaking, and they don't understand me, and that's just like I swear I speak Spanish. It's like almost embarrassing because I'm like I swear I speak Spanish. I can help you guys.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it can be a challenge sometimes, but I think overall, we can make it work. It's you figure it out, and obviously the more time you spend with somebody, it's not a problem at all. And at least for me, I kind of have to put myself in the mindset of, oh, I'm speaking this language now, so it takes a little bit of time for me to adjust into it fully, and then I can, give
Hmm.
me give me I don't know, 30 minutes of talking to someone, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can understand most of it. It's fine. I've adjusted because for a little bit of time, it's still like, I normally speak English, and now I'm dipping into Spanish again, and then it's, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could see where it could be confusing and mind-boggling, and it almost to me would hurt my brain. I think it would be painful. They have to switch, and
Hmm.
although I'd love it, I wish that I did speak. Although I
Yeah.
am pretty fluent in Pig Latin, so I really am, bilingual. Yeah,
See,
you
I
too?
couldn't I no, I couldn't do that. I've never been able to figure it out. I mean, I know the rules for it. I just cannot for the life of me be any kind of close to fluent at it. So, props to you. That is its own language on its
Thanks.
own. I
I've noticed though that Duolingo hasn't picked it up yet as a language.
It's a shame. Get
So
on that
yeah,
Duolingo.
it is. It is. I know it is. It's a shame. So what about acting? Have you guys acted? Have you acted in a different language?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
go
Christina?
ahead. Yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to think because I've done like so many auditions in Spanish.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say that's probably I think the only time I've acted in a different language that I can remember like officially acting and not just auditioning would have been in high school. I played Bernardo in West Side Story. So I did speak Spanish there and Puerto Rican Spanish too, so it worked out. But that's about it, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, I feel like so I've had a lot of voiceover auditions in Spanish, and I've
Me too.
done some voiceover gigs like completely in Spanish. Um, but for like a play or TV, it's usually like a mix of English and Spanish. It's usually the roles I've gotten, it's like someone who their second language is English, and I have to have like a really thick English accent and or Spanish accent, and when I speak English, and then I say like some Spanish words or phrases here and there. Um, because I've done like it's like always like a bilingual show is what I feel like I've always done with Spanish. It's a bilingual show, or something where I have to do both English and Spanish. Um, but the only time I've done like purely Spanish has been for like voiceover gigs. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, the English Spanish thing has to be perfect for you with your Spanglish. So
hmm
it just
It
kind of
is.
move right
Works out.
in.
It is. It does work out. I think the only hard thing for me sometimes is um putting a Hispanic accent onto the English language can be difficult for me, especially if it's someone from a specific country. Like I had to do someone from Ecuador. And so, like, that accent on top of the English accent would be completely different from someone from Puerto Rico speaking English. Like, it's just like a completely different accent because you're bringing in that same like cadence and even sing song uh, quality to it that some countries have, whereas others don't, onto the English language. So it just like really colors the English language really differently. So that can be hard for me personally because my English, I don't think I have an accent. But that's weird. Sometimes people tell me I have an accent when I speak English, and I get really confused. But anyways, um, but my English, I just don't naturally have a Hispanic accent on there. So making and learning how to do that can be really hard for me. Um, but it's still like a fun challenge that I enjoy. So
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put your mind at ease. You don't have an accent. You're
okay. It's so
so
weird.
You heard it here.
I don't get it. Or people say they're like, "Are you from New York? You sound like you have a New York." And I'm not from New York at all. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like people just think I have some tone, and I'm like, I don't know.
that's so funny. Well, I can tell you, growing up in Michigan, in the Midwest, I always thought, well, we just sound like the guys on TV, the news anchors. Like we don't have
Mm.
any sort of an accent. And then yeah, I go places and people will say, yeah, there's a Midwest accent out there. And I'm like, I don't hear it. I don't think you're right. I've never heard of such a thing. But yeah, it's
Mm.
it's interesting how that can be. So you guys got to do this movie,
Mhm.
Ordinary Things. And your mom, by the way, tell her, big fan. Me, I'm a big fan. She did an amazing job at a very interesting character. But you two had interesting characters. And I love the way you interacted, the way you worked together in scenes, the way you brought this childhood friendship into adulthood. I'm wondering were there any challenges with the fact that you're playing people that have this long history with each other? Were there any challenges with making that relationship real? Does that make any sense at all,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I just
yeah. I
said?
think honestly, I it kind of came pretty naturally to me. I don't know. I feel like I feel like as a whole, like as a cast, as a crew, I was very surprised. Having worked on some other projects with these same with the same production company, same director, Micah, um, and having worked in some other places as well, I'd never expected to have this like quick of a bond with everybody right off the bat. It was definitely really weird. Like I mean specifically I remember I mean specifically with Christina and Brittany who was on screen with us. Like I was very surprised how quickly we all just kind of like fell in love and just kind of bonded with each other. I mean, I had the time of my life on that set. And
Mm.
going to work was just playtime. And we would goof off in between takes, and we had sometimes we had a lot of downtime in between our scenes. I mean, we would like film a couple of scenes in the morning, and then, we didn't do anything for a few hours in between, and then we had the last scene of the day, and then we called it. So in between, we were just messing around, eating snacks. So it's interesting because it's like you really do bond in a lot of the downtime while filming, and I think almost right away, I think after the first day or two, because they're also pretty long days of filming. I mean, you're there, the 12 hours sometimes, and I feel like after like the second day, you're like, oh yeah, they're family. They're already here. Like we've seen each other for 24 hours collectively. Yeah, we're there. So I feel like it
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't it wasn't too much of a challenge, at least, to get that kind of camaraderie between all of us, and especially I think between Christina and I. Like we would run lines together, and help
Yeah.
each other out, and we talk about the story, talk about our scenes, talk about our characters, and it kind of came pretty naturally, I think, to me at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like, yeah, it was just natural, and also knowing that these characters had so much backstory and such a long friendship and relationship with each other and their families and the community. Like it was just, I feel like really fun as an actor to uh, develop those backstories because that's just like my own process on my own. What I really like to do is develop those backstories ahead of time. And those relationships, and I kind of create my own stories with it. So that was fun as an actor for me to do. And then being on set, having that all in mind, um, it just became really easy for me to do with Ian, Julian, and Brittany and Vanessa. Like everyone was just like so welcoming, so nice. Like I remember like my first couple of days on that set because I'd never worked with Living Word before, or anyone that was there, and I was like, everyone is so nice. Like I was like, was everyone so nice? Everyone's like so willing to help, always checking in, like seeing if you're okay, just really honestly like asking you like how you're doing about your day and wanting to get to know like everyone was just literally every single person on that set, like not just the actors, like the people who did sound, lighting, like hair, makeup. Like I got so close with the hair and makeup ladies. Like it was just like everyone was so nice, that it just made it really easy to then act and film because uh, everyone around you is so nice that it just kind of, I feel like, broke down any like insecurities or like walls you might have. Because like filming is just really different because everyone's watching it. Like it's just like, it's like when you're watching the movie, obviously you only see like the two actors on screen, but behind the camera, there's like 20 other people. And this was like my first feature film. So I was like obviously a little nervous, but mainly excited. But because everyone was so welcoming and nice, that kind of just eased all my anxieties from day one, which then made it even more fun to play in front of the camera. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so interesting. I've
Mhm.
I've interviewed, spoken with, befriended because I love The Chosen, and and they say, and everybody that I've talked to have said that it's a whole different kind of set, that it is this family, like there's more of an immediate bond, and they're not all Christians, and some of them started out not Christian and now are Christian, and but they're, you don't have to be Christian to be on Chosen,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. And so here you are in the set, I would imagine, is mostly Christian, or I don't know if
Hmm.
so. What do you think? Do you think that played a role in why it was so welcoming, or how do you think the fact that it's a Christian company that you're working for,
Hmm.
right? That you're
Right.
filming
Mhm.
with, what how is that different, or is it different than another company?
Um, I I mean, honestly, I think it did play a big factor, because I feel like growing up, I mean, I grew up Catholic, but I did a lot of like I went to like Catholic middle school, high school, and that was it's middle school, high school. So when you're doing shows there, it's just kind of like everyone's like kids, just kind of like goofing off. But in college, and after college, when I've been on set doing stuff, everyone still can be nice, even if it's not a Christian set, but
Absolutely.
there's definitely a lot more like joking around. Sometimes things can be like a little more like vulgar between like people, or just like people are kind of like sometimes, not on every set, but sometimes people can be a little self-serving, and not as welcoming and opening and making this more of a community project. Um,
Hmm.
and I feel like that can be sometimes an issue in this industry, and especially some actors are kind of self-serving. So
Hmm.
that can definitely play a factor. And I feel like going into this set, it was not that at all. So I honestly think the fact that the majority of the people on set were Christian, and also the majority of the people on set also were volunteers, which is, I think,
Yeah.
another big factor because when you're doing like a film or even like a stage production, like a lot of people are there because they're getting paid, because they like want the money, like they want like the credit, like very me, which it's not bad to get paid, obviously, but
Hmm.
um, the fact that a lot of people on that set were volunteers and they just wanted to be a part of this for their community, for their church, um, I think also says a lot um, about them and the way they were on set. And yeah, I don't know. What do you
Ev-
think, Julian?
I think everybody really just was a servant, essentially,
Mm,
and not in like a slavish kind of way, but like in a truly like they genuinely want to serve, and they genuinely want to be helpful. They genuinely want to do what's best for everybody else. They want to. Everyone was in it as this team mentality, and I mean. Christina, I remember you specifically, and also obviously with me, but you specifically, you couldn't go like two takes without someone offering you a bottle of water. You just be like,
yes.
"Here, you want some water? Here, let me touch you up. Hey, you want me to get you some fruit snacks? I can get you fruit snacks." And you're like, "No, it's okay. Don't worry
Yes.
about it. You're all good. You're all good." And it's funny. My snack of choice on set, Welch fruit snacks, the best.
Hmm.
And it got to a point where I didn't even need to go out and ask for them because people were just walking by and giving me a packet of it. I was like, "Oh, it's okay. I don't need." And they just give me another one. I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay. I'll stockpile them." So everyone was just trying to be helpful all the time, and to the point, I mean, even people you had volunteering in some department to help out in another department. Like, and you had some of the wardrobe people, like if I don't know, maybe I don't know, one of the lighting guys had to leave early or something like that. One of the wardrobe people was like, "I'll do it." So they jump in there and you teach them how to do it real quick. And it's like, you don't you don't see that very often, I don't feel like. Granted, I haven't had too many projects outside of living word stuff, but in the ones that I haven't, you don't really see that all that much. Um and it was really cool. It was really humbling. Um because I mean, you know, and also all the time they'd just be like, "Oh, you guys are the stars. Like you guys are the superstars. Don't worry about us." And we're like, "No, dude, like come on. Like
No.
everybody made this work. Everybody was a superstar on this. And honestly, if it wasn't for that team, we wouldn't I mean, not even probably, definitely would not have been as amazing of an experience as it was. I mean, they facilitated a lot of what made us comfortable on set, what allowed us to perform and to really just, you know, feel lived in. And like I said,
Mhm.
because of that immediate camaraderie, I feel like that we all struck right away, or that because of that environment is what allowed for that to happen.
Mm.
And I think it was pivotal to it. And it was I'll always be I'll always be blessed by this project. I will always be blessed by this crew. Um, to this day. I mean, I feel like this project changed my life, honestly, in a lot of ways.
Wow.
I
Wow.
agree.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
powerful statement to make.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Ordinary Things, uh, the storyline is fantastic. And there's all these little sub storylines within the storyline. And so here you are, and your childhood friends that you're playing, that known each other forever. You made her a birdhouse back in the day, whatever. And you've loved her all along, and she's just been a friend to you, but you've been these great friends. And then all of a sudden Danny's mom is not all of a sudden, but she's dying from cancer.
Hmm.
And her dream, her longing, her last wish is to make sure that her daughter is well taken care of and that she's settled in a marriage and happy with somebody. And so you fake a marriage, and then you're thinking, well, she's going to die tomorrow, so we'll just fake this marriage and all will be well. And then this miraculous thing happens and she's cancer free and moves in with you guys. And you have to pretend to be married and wade through all of that. And so here's Danny, who's already lost her dad, thought she was going to lose her mom, but then didn't lose her mom. And so now grateful that her mom is there. And then here's Tyler, whose parents are a little obnoxious, I gotta say.
Yeah, a
Not
little bit.
not the nicest people. And so there's all these different things going on. And it's a great story. Um, and it's so well told in the movie. You guys do such a great job of really bringing those characters to life and really just, I don't think there could have been two better people, honestly, for the roles that you guys played.
Thank you
And
so much.
so it's true. And you did such an incredible job. I'm wondering, like, what are you hoping people really learn from it, get out of it, besides being entertained? What is your dream for people when they leave the studio or leave the wherever they're watching, their
Yeah, I
living
think
room, or whatever?
I think I would like people to walk away with the same lessons that I learned from working on it, and from reading that script. Um, like I said, I mean, and I don't say it lightly when I say that this movie I feel like changed my life in a lot of ways. I feel like one of the big ones was that it propelled me to try new things, and it encouraged me to take bigger leaps, leaps of faith, and to just get moving. And I mean, the analogy in the movie that always stuck to me was, you can't move a car that is parked, right? It's like if you make a mistake, right, you just need to keep on driving. If you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You don't crash into a ditch, right? You just take the next exit, just reroute, right? And if you don't like where you're at, or if you have places that you want to be in your life, the only way that you're gonna get there is if you just get moving and then just do it and enjoy the ride as you go along. Um, I I always was a very idealistic kid, I think, a very much a perfectionist. And this movie called me out on a lot of things. Really called me out. So I feel like the number one thing that I would like people to walk away with is that, stop, smell the roses, just enjoy the ride and just get moving. It's okay. You're gonna get to where you need to go. The grass is always greenest where you water it, which is
Mm.
I don't know if Jen came up with that, but that was amazing. I
I
love that.
think
I love that.
someone,
There's someone else
I
did
think,
already. I don't know, but that when I saw that in the script, I was like, dude, I'm writing that down. Um,
mm,
but yeah, there's so many. I mean, I know I said the most important thing and listed like four different things, but I really, yeah, there's a lot.
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
Christina, what about you? Yeah.
Yeah, I always love the parked car uh, analogy a lot. And then also, I think the one that they say constantly is just finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Um, Honestly, it hit me a lot. And I feel like I connected with Danny a lot in this way, where um, I was definitely like Danny before this movie, where I was just always constantly looking for something bigger and better and something's out there and I don't know what it is, but what if like this can happen or that can happen or this and that and that. But at the same time, when you think about it, in the movie, Danny's not really doing anything about it. She's just kind of like saying, well, I don't know, maybe this or maybe that, and maybe this will come to me. Like she's just kind of waiting around and not ever making a decision on what she wants. And then realizing what she has and what's been in front of her all along is extraordinary. I think is a really big thing, which is not to say that there isn't other things out there for you. Like obviously you can move the car and find those things. But sometimes I feel like people can get lost in trying to find something that's out there, and not seeing that what they have already is beautiful and wonderful and what God has like intended for them to have at that moment in their life. Because I think we can really get caught up in what we want in the future and what could be. Um, and I feel like sometimes we just need to be grateful for what we have in the present. Um, but obviously, you can still dream, you can still go after things that you want, but um, always, I feel like as you're dreaming, as you're chasing the things you want in your life, I think it's always a good reminder to stay grounded and remember that what you have right now is beautiful because once you get to that goal, you might look back on it and be like, oh, I didn't appreciate that time. I didn't appreciate what I had in that moment. Even though I have what I wanted at the time, it wasn't, I didn't really see everything I already had. Um, so that's what I would say. I
Yeah. Oh
want
my
people
gosh.
to take away. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Great. Both of you really, really strong, great answers. I think there's so much depth to the film that there are so many things. And what you just described, Christina, is such an important life thing that in First Corinthians it says love is patient. And to me, that means that you're in the moment, that
Mhm.
you're patient even with your day, even with the moment. So instead of
Hmm.
being with somebody and thinking about all these other things you could be doing, all these other places you could be, or thinking about, what's going to be happening later, you're actually with the
Hmm.
person that you're with. You're fully, completely here. And that's one of the things that I got out of the movie personally
Hmm.
was that you need to be in the moment. It can be so easy to overlook what's right in front of you. And the greatest thing could be where you are right now. And you can miss it so easily if you're FOMOing. Is that a word? If you're, just looking to see, is this really the greatest person for me? Is this really the greatest thing? Am I in the place that I'm supposed to be? Where should I be? And I think it does come down to be where you are, be completely
Hmm.
where you are, and you can't go wrong if
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
fully engaged and fully there. So yeah,
Hmm.
very good, so true, so true. It was interesting to me that Tyler's parents were the way that they were,
Mhm.
because the characters knew each other from such a young age. So obviously the parents knew the character,
Mhm.
from when they were young, and yeah, not a real big fan of Danny's. Um, yeah, why do you think that is? Or
I think I think that they knew Danny's tendencies. Obviously, we've been friends for a very long time, so I mean, basically like family. And I think more importantly, they knew who Tyler was, and they knew his tendencies, and I feel like they knew that if something didn't change, between the two of them, that matchup was not going to be good. And I think they saw it coming before anybody else. And I feel like the way that I always saw it was that it was almost like a tough love scenario with Tyler. I don't think that it was, necessarily just out of being obnoxious or they just didn't like Danny. I think it was more of, like I said, they know how Tyler tends to act specifically with Danny, and they know his personality, and it can spiral in a bad way, especially when put in this situation
Mm.
where he's very much almost he's too much of a servant, almost too much, to a fault, putting everybody else ahead of him before himself. Um, and I think like any parent, they just wanted what was best for him. And that was the wake up call that they wanted to give him throughout the movie. And and yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a very interesting dynamic, I think, and it was really fun to play around that. Um, because I remember when I was on set and I was filming those scenes, I could again, weirdly enough, like even with Carolina and Jody, who played my parents, um, right away, I mean, I could feel that relationship there. I felt it between them. I felt it between them and me. It was very easy to perform and act around. And it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. But I think, yeah, I think that's just kind of how that dynamic worked. They really just wanted the best for Tyler, and I think they were afraid, rightfully so, throughout the movie, where you saw
Mhm.
him put Danny ahead of him in every single way, to
Mhm.
the point where it ended up hurting him uh, throughout the film.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was happy that that was part of it because that's real life, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna get that in real life. Not everybody's gonna like you. And but in the end, you know that they're rooting for you. And so
hmm
that's kind of a cool thing too. So we are nearing the end of our time. Unfortunately, this
Oh
time
wow.
went by so fast.
I
I've
know.
so
Yeah.
enjoyed talking to you guys. So number one reason why people need to see this movie is
Ooh, boy. Because I talked about like five different ones. I gotta whittle it down.
Is um if you see it, you will find the extraordinary in the ordinary, and um yeah.
Hey, mic drop right there. Tagline.
right.
I was
Uh,
like, wait, I
no, you
don't
summed it up perfectly, honestly. I mean, I feel like it's a perfect title for the movie, and that's exactly what it is. I feel like the most important thing is finding that beauty in the ordinary and just stop and smell the roses. Just enjoy where you're at and count your blessings. Because, while it's good to dream ahead and to have plans, it's very important to do so. It's also very important to be grateful for everything that you have, and to practice that gratitude around you at all times.
know.
I feel like that builds character, that really brings a lot of peace in your own life, I feel like, as well. So go see the movie.
Very good. Another mic drop. Two mic drops right in a row. Very good. Okay, so how can people follow you guys? Where can they find you and the movie?
Yeah. For me, you can follow me on Instagram at Cristina Duchesne. And then I also have IMDb, so you can uh, find me on IMDb to see what I'm up to. Cristina Duchesne Rivera. And then the movie, you can follow Living Word Studios on Instagram, Facebook, Ordinary Things has its own Facebook. And then like if you want to see updates, and then right now it's on Prime,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, and
Tubi.
I
I
don't know
think
if it's
Tubi.
on Tubi yet.
Yes.
Is
Tubi.
it?
Yep, it is.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
on Tubi.
It is? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are three.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, and for
Yeah.
me, you could find me on Instagram, at Jules Simoes, Julz Simoes. And yeah, it's pretty much where I'm most active. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, great. Well, so everybody, watch the movie. You
hmm
will love it. Watch it with your family, watch it with your friends, tell everybody about it. It's so good. Get your church to even bring it in to the church and do a movie night
hmm
because it is a
Mhm.
movie that is going to change you and make you really think more about the everyday and the ordinary.
Mhm.
Ordinary Things is the name of the movie. Cristina and Julian, I am so happy to have been with you. Thank you so much for being here. I know I got to let you go. I don't want to, but I have to. And so, thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody, thank you for watching. And until next time, be blessed.